Where did life start out for you, John?
Well, that's a good question. I've been thinking about that. And what I discovered was my life started in Germany in 1858.
Okay, wow. You're looking very good.
I'm looking good for 170 years, aren't I? Yes. So what happened in 1858 was a group of religious fanatics, Wendish people who migrated because of religious persecution and the famine, came to South Australia in 1858. So I'm a German Lucas. And so that, because I begin to wonder as I found out a bit about my history, why did I end up like I am?
Okay.
And in the work that I do and everything like that. And I began to understand that way back then, even though I had no history of church, no history of Christianity in many ways, back then there was a root there that was a little shoot that was started to form right back then. And so they came to Gawler River, and we found a little bit more about it all. So there were about 7 brothers and sisters that came out to it all, which is really exciting. And so my grandfather, he was a very talented man. He made a fortune and lost it. He made a fortune with inventions for agriculture, but then the 1930s depression came along and he lost everything. Now, the other interesting thing about my family was that he married the daughter of a Greek sea captain. And so, in other words, my grandmother was Greek and my grandfather had German roots. Now, that became really obvious to me as I looked at my grandmother, who was short and dumpy little Greek lady. And I wondered, why am I short and dumpy like a little Greek person? Why did I get that? Why did I look like that? And she was a fantastic lady because, you see, through the depression, my grandfather became depressed, I imagine. And she was a very talented businesswoman. So what she did was to hire out large homes at Glenelg and became a boarder. So she boarded people and made an income by boarding people from Holidays, Broken Hill, all of that through there. So that was really exciting. And then they had 5 children. And the good news is the youngest was my dad, who was a spoilt one, I was told by his sisters. And my dad was a very talented man. He was a sportsman. So basically he swam for Australia in the Commonwealth Games back in 1938 in Sydney. Now I said, Dad, where is your uniform? Did you? No, Grandma threw it away. Oh, no, I said. Oh. So my dad was a very talented sportsman. Water was his first love. So he not only swam, but he was a diver. And so he even judged diving for state level and national level for 30 years. He was also a cricketer. He played golf, everything like that. Everything he did, he was good at. And he ended up playing league football for Glenelg. And so that's what happened. And so that sporting aspect was very much inlaid in me. I'm not a great sportsman, but I love sport. I love watching sport. And I've discovered, why did I do that? And it really comes back to my father and his involvement. He also went to World War II, which is really quite a dramatic time. He was a rat at Tobruk.
Oh.
So he was in Palestine, in the desert, fighting Rommel. He was a signalman. And his job was to lay out the lines and then memorise Morse code and send Morse code through the signals of all this. And so it was really quite dangerous work going underground to do that. And so he tells me one story. What happens was that he was driving back and this guy wanted to ride back. And they were driving back and all these machine guns were just bullets going straight over him. And so he got up, and the guy that they pulled up gave a ride home jumped off, and they were really worried. But the day later at the camp, they saw them and says, "What happened to you? Did you get?" "No, I got scared. You were too dangerous going out through there." So then he went from there into Kokoda Trail, and he was on the Kokoda Trail with Diver Derek, and Diver Derek on the VC. So that's all the war, all of that. So I have an affinity to the return services, affinity to going and seeing what happens and all of that there. Wow. So that's my dad's side of it all. And then my mother was totally different.
Okay.
Mother was Irish and the thing. Don't do your don't sort out your grandmother's funeral because you find out there's a few skeletons in the cupboard.
Okay.
She was married 5 times. I couldn't believe it. 5 times. And unfortunately, my mum came from a broken family. In other words, her dad was alcoholic, kicked her out, and they kicked him out. And so she really had not many fathers and didn't understand what family. So here's my dad, Greek background, big families,
Yeah.
all of that. That's their nature and DNA. And mother, who didn't know what family looked like. And so what happened is that they met at Myers. He was 32 and she was 21. Gorgeous lady, but underneath it all, low self-esteem. She had a red hair, she had a bit of a temper. So all of this was part of my DNA. Of on the one side, my dad with the sporting, didn't like conflict, but liked big family. My mum, who is low self-esteem, felt rejected, all of those issues there. And so when it came to family gatherings for my family, mum would stay home. And dad would take us to the family gatherings. And so it was really quite a strange get up going there.
Did your mother ever explain to you why she doesn't go or any of this? Or how did you find all of this out?
Well, we basically, in terms of, it was obvious that she didn't go because she didn't go.
Yeah.
She just stayed home.
Yeah.
And it was only as you get older and you reflect upon it that you put the jigsaw puzzle to pieces and to do that. And you discover why that was the case. She was, she was the youngest of two girls, but she didn't really get on, the two sisters didn't get on very well at all. So we had broken family on one side, big family on the other side. And so they were formed together. So then I grew up in the post-World War II, and guess what? Mum and Dad worked hard. Dad was a floor covering contractor, so he laid lino and carpets and things like that. And Mum helped him, did the books, and was out there doing all the hard work with him as well. And so guess what? I was the eldest of the three. Mum had a lot of trouble getting pregnant, a lot of miscarriages. Apparently I was one of two, but my twin got lost somewhere in the thing. And my brother and sister were twins. And so Mum was dealing with three children 18 months apart growing up. So that was a big learning curve for her too. So that was what was happening. So we grew up and in a time when we had to look after ourselves. Mum and Dad was working. I would come home, cook the tea, all of that to get. So a lot of independence, a lot of struggle, but it was, you look back and it was a good life. It was a good life.
Thank you for watching this short clip of Life Bursts. You can like, subscribe or follow for more, or head to rawcut.com.au.